Greetings, my name's Paul Zablocki, Development Gifts Officer at Canisius High School, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to another Conversations with Canisius, the web series where we connect alumni from around the world with the classrooms on Delaware Avenue. Today, my guest is Raymond Link from the class of 1972. Raymond recently retired as CFO from FEI Company and has been appointed to the board of directors of Electro Scientific Industries and Form Factor Incorporated, and now teaches at UC Santa Barbara and lives with his wife Jill in Montecito, California. Raymond, welcome.
Well, thank you so much. A pleasure to be here. I always love reaching out with anyone associated with Canisius.
So this web series is an opportunity for our alumni to offer some perspective on their careers and their path once they left Canisius High School. And make that available to our students. So let's get started with simply tell us a little bit about the path that you took since leaving the Blue Doors in 1972.
Great. Well, just kind of looking back, I enjoyed my time at Canisius, although I have to say I didn't do as much as I would like to in retrospect. I was a slightly above average student. I think I graduated maybe in the top third of my class. There were a lot of really smart kids in the class of 72. I only participated in a couple of extracurricular activities and did not do any sports. And when I look back on that and I look at the sports program the school has today, it's a world of difference, the offerings that the school had. Back then, it was pretty much the core sports. And we had some great athletes, Jim Valley, John Lankus, John Ruffino, John Bushka. They're all in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So unless you were really good, you were going to sit on the bench most of the time. So I opted not to do that. I came from a relatively low-income family. In fact, I had to have a sponsor to attend Canisius. So when I think back, how fortunate I was that somebody actually reached out to enable me to go there. And when I really appreciated Canisius more was after I graduated. When I was in college, I went to the University of Buffalo. I majored in accounting, and I found college so much easier than high school. The preparation we had at Canisius with the rigor and concentration on languages and English and math and science really, I think, prepares students extraordinarily well. So I did really well in college. I graduated clearly in the top 10% of my class. I graduated in 3 years. I got my degree in accounting. I joined a major accounting firm to pursue my CPA certificate, which I also did well on. And I attribute all of this to the hard the hard knocks we had at Canisius back then, and really prepared me personally well. From there, I went on to the University of Pennsylvania, the Wharton School of Finance, to pursue my MBA, and I joined a fellow CHS 72 alum, Jack Pollock, who's a near and dear friend. I just spoke to him yesterday. So it was fun being there with another CHS alum. Graduated there in 1980. I joined a Fortune 500 company in the finance department and kind of worked in a number of different positions, kind of rose through the ranks, and ultimately left that company to take on my first gig as a chief financial officer of a fairly decent sized construction company. Stayed there for a number of years and ultimately joined a smaller pre-IPO, that the initial public offering, public tech company that was making components for cell phones. And cell phones were just moving from analog to digital, and we hit the sweet spot and had a tremendous IPO and did extraordinarily well there. I ultimately merged that company with another larger semiconductor company in Portland, Oregon, where I then moved out there and met my wife, Jill. Lived there for 14 years. From there, I joined a different tech company that was the world's leading manufacturer of electron microscopes, which is a fascinating technology. And ultimately stayed there for a number of years and semi-retired in 2015 and moved to Santa Barbara, California, where I've been on as many as 4 different public tech boards in various capacities, ranging from lead director to chair of the audit committee to chair of the governance committee. And I now teach 3 different finance courses at UC Santa Barbara and do pro bono work for low-income Mexican-American families, trying to help them with their finances. So that's Ray Lincoln in a nutshell.
Thank you. That's one thing about your career that I find most fascinating is how it spans coast to coast.
Yeah, I've been I've been in Philadelphia, Atlanta, two places in Florida, Portland, Oregon, and now California. Nothing in the middle other than Buffalo.
So let me ask you, how did you know when was a good time to leave? I mean, you worked for so many different dynamic companies. What was it that kind of inside of you that kind of said, this is an opportunity I don't want to miss?
Yeah, that's a great question. Prior to the age of 21, I was never even on an airplane, and the furthest west I'd ever been was Cleveland. And I, it kind of started when I went to Wharton and moved to Philadelphia, and then at that point in time, there were so many opportunities job-wise. You had to really figure out where you wanted to go. And my wife and I were both from Buffalo. She was a Newman alum, and we decided we wanted to go somewhere warm. And I ultimately took a job in Florida with a Fortune 500 company, and that was really the first catalyst to moving. And then from there, it was really kind of how our opportunities came about and timing and whatnot.
All right. One of the benchmarks of the foundation of a Canisius education is its Ignatian formation. The idea of AMDG for the greater glory of God, and men and women form with others. How has being educated in a Jesuit school and an Ignatian school, how has that affected you in your career and in your life?
Immensely. As I said, I always look back very fondly about it. And it's interesting, wherever I go, somewhere along the way, Buffalo comes up, whether it's another person or whatever. Then we start talking, and then it isn't almost the first question after Buffalo is where you went to high school. And I'll tell them I went to Canisius, and everybody's like, oh, that's a really good school. And we start talking about that. And I think about the core Jesuit values that I learned there. And I think, striving for excellence, I think to me would be number one. That if I would tell any young person right now is that work hard, strive for excellence. Value only comes about through hard work. You just can't sit back and expect things to happen. And Canisius made you do hard work. And I resented it a bit when I was there because my friends, and I went to a public elementary school. So all my friends went to public high schools, and they were kind of like having it pretty easy. And I'm working really hard. And those core values, I think, set in and set me up nicely for life. And I look at some of the other ones that, looking at helping others, I think really is important. And my wife calls me the Godfather because I kind of have this thing where I help a lot of people and I end up with a lot of stray cats, whatever. But I'm always trying to find ways to connect people and help people, whether it's with their careers or with their finances or whatever. And I think that's just a value that came about through my Jesuit education. So I think, caring for people, the cura personalis is carries forward. And I also think that just, trying to lead a good life, and we're all flawed individuals, but, trying just to lead a good life, whether it's helping out others, or if you're successful, maybe you can donate some money or whatever, just to, kind of move society and the ball forward.
That's great. I know that you do some professional advising, and you yourself have served on some professional boards. Um, can you explain to our audience kind of what does it mean to serve on a professional board, and how does one find themselves having the opportunity to do so?
That's a great question. So in corporate America, especially public companies, which is what I specialize in, you have shareholders, you have management, and you have employees. The board of directors is actually elected by the shareholders to act in an oversee situation, sort of like the board of governors of Canisius High School. It's somewhat similar. And our main responsibilities are to ensure integrity to the shareholders, that the company is being run and managed appropriately. We don't actually run the company. The board of directors hires the management that then runs the company. We then oversee what they do, and they report to us, and then we report to the shareholders. So the main thing is helping the companies with their long-term strategic plan, helping them with finding talent, other members of the management team, and helping them through financing situations. Should they issue more shares? Should they issue debt? And then also evaluating mergers and acquisitions. Those are the primary things that board of directors do. And how you become a member of the board of directors, that's a great question. I think the key thing is to have the right training and credentials that are appropriate for that particular company. I was fairly fortunate in that I spent a good amount of my later part of my professional career in Portland, Oregon, which at that time had a very large tech base. So there are a lot of technology companies. And while I'm not an engineer, most of my career was on the finance side working for tech companies. And those companies all needed to have a finance professional on their board. So I ended up being sort of the de facto go-to guy for Portland-based companies for chairing their audit committee. So it was right place, right time, but also having the right training and credentials. Things don't happen just because you're there. You really have to. And I talked with this with some of my friends that I've been very fortunate and very lucky. There's no question about that. But we all sort of make our own luck. We have to get ourselves in a position to take advantage of opportunities. And the opportunities are where the sort of luck is. You have the right place, right time. But if you're not capable or in the position to take advantage of those opportunities won't come your way anyhow. So I think starting with my training from Canisius, then my degree from University of Buffalo and my MBA from Wharton, and my work experience set me up fairly nicely for taking advantage of these opportunities. Sorry about that.
No problem. Just last question, and you've also offered some outstanding tidbits already, but for our young men, if you could just give them one or two words of advice. They're 16, 17 years old. The world's ahead of them. Looking back at how you were at that time, what would you say to these young guys?
Well, I think the first thing is I think you have to find something that you really enjoy and also that you're good at. You may enjoy something a lot, but maybe you're not that good at it. I think you have to find those two that match together. In my case, I was always pretty good in math and sciences. And I found that accounting and finance was a really good fit for me. And my wife says that there's nobody else in the world that enjoys counting money more than I do. But it's just that I always did that when I was a little kid. And so it was a good fit. But it doesn't have to be, per se in business. You could be doing it great in arts or in literature or whatever. And I find that if you find something that you enjoy and you're good at, you're going to be successful. That's just going to happen. And then coupled with that, getting back to the hard work, it all starts with hard work. You may be super bright and really intelligent and have lots of creative skills, but you still have to work hard. In my case, I had to work a little extra hard because I was always at schools that had like a lot of really smart kids. And the only way for me to compete well was to work really hard. So I would say that. And then lastly, I would say continuous education, and not meaning that you have to stay in school, but stay abreast of your subject matter, whether you're a lawyer, an accountant, or an engineer, or a teacher, or whatever. I think it's really important to stay abreast. I see that a lot in my profession where a lot of people got their CPA licenses and they kind of became fairly stale. They didn't keep up with a lot of stuff, and they didn't enjoy the success in their careers, but a lot of it had to do with that they just kind of stopped with their learning. So I'm sort of a continuous learner. I'm always reading and trying to find out new things. So I think those three things: work hard, continuous education, continuous learning, I would say, but most important, find something that you enjoy and that you're good at, and you'll be successful.
Right, that's outstanding, and great points. And I thank you for the time this afternoon, for giving an insight into a long and successful career. And I know that our young men are really going to benefit from having the opportunity to get a little insight into what it takes to, go from a young man at Canisius High School and find yourself in Fortune 500 companies and things like that. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you. Very much enjoyed it. Take care.